Hello and welcome. This is Star Wars Commander, the Pixel Empire, and I am Commander Envy. Today we're going to be going over a forum post that a lot of people are pretty familiar with by now. This is back in October. It's pretty, almost about mid-November now. So it's been in effect for a while. But I feel it's relevant because it discusses a lot of what we're seeing in the... I should get a knock off this stuff here. Or maybe not. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So I feel like it's pretty relevant for the game right now, especially with tournament going on, Galactic Tournament. So it's a lot of why we're seeing what we're seeing and the base development and why, Rebel is actually pretty strong. Empire is pretty strong, but it's also suffering from some of these changes. So Chris Menezes here is saying we're going to go over this kind of stuff. Chris Menezes, as well as Dan Story, and I think there's a few other ones. Anthony Sharma. They're also part of the dev team. Chris Menezes and Dan Story are more like they kind of relay the information, while Anthony Sharma and I think one other that I can't think of are more on the actual hands-on development. So Chris Menezes here is posting. We're going to go over the burst turret information first. So these turrets are intended to be anti-bruiser, but this doesn't effectively come across in gameplay. To clarify and enhance its use, we are making the following changes. So pretty much burst turrets, they were doing just as much damage as every other turret to infantry, and it really didn't have a distinct means of play. It was a great turret, and I honestly still felt it was better than rapid turrets, but it just didn't seem to do anything better than rocket turrets, mortars. Mortars are pretty much the go-to turret for a long while now. But this change kind of altered that, as well as another change that, again, reduced even more of the damage to kind of more define the mortar as more of a splash thing, but it would take more hits to kill. Rather than what it was before, where it almost took 1 or 2 hits just to wipe out a whole entire army. If it was all compact, then it was pretty much game over at that point. So, highlight the burst turret as a highly effective anti-bruiser unit in the unit's description. Increase the damage against infantry bruisers, vehicle bruisers, and to give it more clear-cut functionality. This is amazing. It's fantastic for burst turrets. It's why I've actually changed all of my turrets to burst, because they're very effective when it comes to taking down kind of infantry and just bruisers. Those are your real annoying things, and they make medic droids last so much more longer, and they're more of a pester. They can pester you more if they're basically still standing. Granted, we're not seeing too many of the bruisers, and I'll get into that. We're not seeing much of the Wookiees. We're seeing more heavies. Again, I'll go into that when we get more to the mortars, and that's more of why we're seeing the units that we're seeing, as well as rocket turrets. So we're gonna get right into rocket turrets here. Just the gist of it was that burst turrets are stronger now. They have armor-piercing bullets, so they're a more well-rounded turret than they were before, and then also just more defined by the other turrets. So, rocket turrets, with the changes to mortars and their adjustments against bruiser units, a change is needed to keep vehicles from becoming overly dominant as players adapt to the burst turret usage. So this is, again, it's a hint from the devs saying, hey, maybe you guys should start using burst turrets instead of all mortars, or if we nerf mortars, there's still something you can use. It's something I caught on to, and it's something I've been using, and I feel it's been very effective. Against HQ7s and Tier 7 units, maybe not so much, but honestly, the level hike between 6 and 7 is actually really high. I don't really get why. It's kind of insane. There's a big level gap between that, as well as, I believe it's 4 to 5 is the level gap. Those are the two big main level gaps in the game. So, to better adapt the game to these adjustments, we are making the following changes. Increase the turret's range to 10. This makes the range of the turret equal to the regular AT-AT range. This is a big nerf to those that use the triple AT-AT tactic, which I really didn't feel was much of a tactic to begin with. It was just put down AT-ATs and give them a bunch of repair droids, or screen them with stormtroopers. It worked, but I felt like it really shouldn't have. Again, I'm not biased because I'm Imperial. Like I care about game balance first and foremost. So I really didn't like that so much. But at the same time now, Elite AT-ATs still have a range of 11, which is the max range of mortars. So the only thing that's going to hit it at max range is mortars, not rocket turrets. So it's still very effective to use the elite AT-AT. But they're also baitable. You put your shields in the back of your base, and your AT-ATs are going to face dive those things just to get there. So if you put kind of turrets more forward and even outside the shield, and your shield's further back, your AT-ATs are going to want to just run right into that. And they'll hit some stuff along the way, but for the most part, they're going to just dive bomb straight for those things. And it's why AT-ATs, they're strong, but they're also counterable. Like, there's a built-in counter mechanic for them, outside of their wonky AI that some rebels like to kind of take advantage of, which I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. It's really not. It's the devs that need to kind of get on that and fix it. But, there's little things like that you can take advantage of, which is something I'm going to compare to the medic heavy meta that we're seeing from rebels. Just want to kind of highlight that right here. So, and it's also lowering the damage of the turret to compensate for the additional range. Just something a lot of AT-AT commanders are not really reading the full thing. They just see the range and they're losing it. But the damage is actually a little bit less. You don't see as much of the crazy multipliers or, vehicles being taken out by, 1 or 2 rocket turret shots, like tanks just being completely slaughtered by them, and AT-STs are just a joke. So it's not as bad as it used to be, where, again, it was like 1 or 2 shots and you downed a vehicle. It really kind of ruined a lot of Imperial's armor superiority in vehicles. But then also, really just led to the fact that AT-AT was just the best and safest unit to operate most efficiently for winning. You pretty much could always, if you weren't going against AT-AT trap bases, that you can pick them out, and I can show you guys how to pick that out later on, but you can pick them out. They're pretty easy to spot. But if you're not fighting those, I mean, you were going to finish in the 80 to 100% percentile because, you had the stubborn rebels that didn't want to compensate for the AT-ATs and just want to, build their base and then essentially go to the forums and complain about it. So, lower damage ratio against infantry, bruiser vehicles, yep. So right here we're also getting a buff to tanks. They're extremely stronger now, but their AI is just as wonky as AT-ATs. I'd say a little bit less. They still love to target walls, which is annoying, and they also take so much time to pivot to, say a target behind them versus, when they're facing forward. You have to compensate for the pivot time, which is very slow. So you can get off at least 1 or 2 shots from a turret that's directly behind you before the tank even pivots around to shoot. And then there's also the delay of the shot, and tanks are very strong, but they're also very weak. You really got to practice a lot of tank usage if you're going to use it in higher levels. If you use AT-ATs, I'd say it's a little easier to grasp. It's just getting used to what is going to cause bugs, what are AT-AT trap bases, and things like that. So we're going to get into mortars. This was the biggest adjustment, and it's led to a lot of the meta change. These turrets are intended to be anti-infantry. I forgot, I need to get rid of this little bar here. So these turrets are intended to be anti-infantry, but the current state of them makes them very effective against vehicles as well. Yeah, they were pretty obnoxious, gotta say. If you go against full mortar bases, they were good against Imperial, and they were good against Rebel, and it just never made sense to me. Since the current use of these turrets is falling outside the scope of design, we are making the following changes. Highlight the mortar turret as a highly effective against anti-infantry unit in the unit's description. Lower the damage ratio against vehicles, bruiser infantry, and lower it even further against vehicle bruisers substantially. This to improve attacking against mortar spam bases. So, this led to, before you had to use Wookiees because they were going to soak the most amount of damage and they were going to deal a good chunk of damage. But now, since mortars are actually weakened to infantry, it still says they're strong, but you can notice the difference in their damage. It's a lot weaker compared to what they used to be. That might have come from the second-hand adjustment to mortars as well. They did another little hot fix on this. I don't think it was actually posted in notes. I can take a look, but for the most part, they readjusted the damage even further to be a little bit less, because the mortar damage from this adjustment wasn't a whole lot as much as people were hoping, and they just kind of tuned it back even further to kind of compensate. So, you had to use Wookiees or you were just going to die miserably against a lot of mortars. But now that that's changed, you can now go full, heavy damage with, heavies. They have a decent amount of health. They don't have the best amount of health, but they got a decent amount, and they have really high damage. They're probably the second highest damage infantry next to, of course, heroes and, the sniper unit. The sniper unit is very much weaker in terms of HP, which is why we're not seeing much of that, and it also doesn't have a very fast firing rate as compared to the heavy or the stormtrooper or the soldiers. So you put medics on these guys, and they're going to last. Like, they last very long. And due to the mortar damage nerf, medic droids, medis, they had almost 10,000 HP, or they had 10,000 HP at level 7. That's just insane compared to, like, what is it, like, I think it's 2,000 damage, but it's the modifiers even reduce the damage even further. So you have medic droids that are lasting far longer now, and you put them on heavies, and they're dealing massive amount of damage. And the reason why, I get rebels that are like, well, now you guys know how it feels with the AT-ATs, and broken, basically a broken army to win games. And now you guys can see our frustration. But the difference is that at least with AT-ATs, you could bait them. You could, if you built your base to bait them, you can do it. You could bait them pretty much in the back of your base and just mop them up. It was just like, it was almost like a gimme unit at that point if you had AT-AT trap bases. And then if you try to deploy them in the back so they're right next to the shields, you'd probably bug them out, because it really induced the moonwalking bug, as a lot of people like to call it. So, that was a clear counter. A clear way to counter it is even defined by, oh, we got another attack. Got one a little bit earlier, and I had my thing drop, so I'm going to check out some of these attacks. So, it was a clear way to counter that. And, people just kind of got frustrated with it and just didn't do it. But with this, they're generalists. Heavies are generalists, so they're going to work back or front to back, which means there's no real way to counter them other than dealing damage to them. And you can't really deal damage to them because the medic droids heal for pretty much everything that you deal. So every damage that you deal, it's going to heal it right back. So the only way to beat heavies is to kill the medi droids. But the medi droids are stronger now because mortar turret is ridiculously strong. And the only thing that can really counter them well is rocket turrets and burst turrets. Burst turrets target the first unit that comes through, so if you screen, you're going to protect them. And rocket turrets do the same. The only difference is that, and this is why, again, I use burst and rocket and mortar, is because rocket turrets, if they kill, or the unit that they're targeting dies, and the medic droids are in range, they will target them. So they'll start shooting at them, and they'll kill them. And they'll choose them over everything else, which is awesome, but it's also frustrating because if you are a medi-heavy commander in Rebel side, you know how to use those things. So you know to avoid those particular points, and it's very easy to use them. But then that's also why I use burst turrets now, is because pretty much if you get a focus of burst turrets, regardless of how much those things are being healed by the medi droids, they'll down them. Like, they'll take them out. It'll be much slower than going full mortar, but at the same time, it's more well-rounded as compared to going full mortar. If you're not going full mortar and you're using heavy amount of mortars, it's not going to be effective. They need to deal a bunch of damage. They need to have multiple focuses to take out medic droids. That's the biggest reason for that, is to, biggest reason for mortars is for medic droids. I'd say it's even more than pretty much anything else. Yeah, they're great against infantry, but your biggest issue is going to be taking out medic droids. So that's, again, that's why we've seen the rise of that meta coming in, and it's very frustrating because it's very hard to counter. There's no real means of countering it other than just, try to kill them with damage. But that's not a real tactical means of killing or of countering another commander versus the AT-ATs, where you put your shields in the back and you bait them in. Or you scatter your shields across the base and they have to walk around, and you pretty much squander that unit. There's ways of making it so that you took advantage of its targeting system and could capitalize on it. Versus, generalists, you can't capitalize on that. The best you can do is maybe pile in a bunch of your turrets in one area, but then it weakens points in your different parts of your base, and it's, there's the frustrations there. So, that's pretty much it. We're going to go into some of those attacks I just got. I'm not going to go into Rebel heroes. Basically, they just end up flip-flopping Chewie and Han. Made it so people can be a little more easy with that. And then they did this adjustment where you can't basically bomb out of base and win. That's still not really true, because it's no longer 3 if you're attacking someone higher than you. If you're attacking someone equal as your base, though, it's 3. If you're attacking, say, I'm HQ 6, I'm attacking HQ 7, it's going to take 4. So, I mean, it's a step in the right direction, but it's not. I don't feel it's enough. I think it's kind of frustrating, because pretty much, you know, if you have an awesome base, and as soon as they take down your shields, you're pretty much done. They're just going to bomb you. That's why I feel shields and turrets are probably the most important parts of this game, next to walls, because walls at least are going to keep them out long enough for your turrets to deal damage, and you know, just they have their effective uses. So we're going to take a look at what happened while I was discussing turrets. I think I got hit actually 3 times, 2 within this recording and 1 within just the kind of the time I was getting ready for this one, just kind of prepping some of the last episode. So we'll see what we got. So far, so good. Oh, look at that. 48. I'm going to turn down my volume here a little. Don't want to be too loud. Okay. So, yeah, we got 16, 16, 16. So, not bad. Yeah. Pretty good. So, as you can see, I mean, burst turrets, I feel like they're really effective anymore now. I'm going to remove this because I don't like eyesores, and I feel that those are eyesores. Alright. Let's take a look at the games. So, I'm going to guess this guy probably bugged out. You know, we'll take a look real fast just to be sure, but it's probably like a quick couple second thing. Maybe he accidentally deployed or something, I'm not really sure. Can't really take a whole lot of pride in a 9 deployment win. I mean, maybe he was going for my resources, but no, I mean, he's not going for just resources. I really don't know what he's trying to do. So these guys get shredded. These guys should be in range pretty soon. Got my mortars doing work. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I normally I'm not going to review bases or like attacks like this that are either this week or just if I'm going to fast forward through them really fast to get an idea if they bugged out or whatever. Didn't look like he bugged out. I don't know why he only used. I mean, I'm guessing maybe that's all he had. I don't know. That was kind of weird. I don't know why you would nerf your metals like that, but hey, I'll take it. So, let's see. So, you know, these are actually both good examples. I'll go into this one first, the one with the 70 soldiers. I don't know why people are. I mean, it's not a bad build, but this again, if you're not using Medi heavy and you're Rebel, like you really should get on that bandwagon while it's still there, because it's probably one of the. I mean, soldiers are a really good option too if you stack them well, but they're not as great as I'd say some of the other builds you can do. Even Wookiee and Wookiee Medi is still really good, versus it's just not as good as I'd say Medi heavy. So he's going to pile them in there. Which this is really kind of dumb because, I mean, this is right here next to my mortar. I mean, yeah, they're going to be pretty well healed by the medic droids, but you should really deploy in an area that you can at least capitalize more on it versus rushing just straight from the mortar. So, like, had he picked, you know, maybe the back of my base or even just this side here, he would have only gotten hit by 1, but now he's going to get hit by 2 mortars, and that's just going to shred him. Oh, he's smart enough to... He took him out with X-Wing, that's not bad. Let me back this out a little bit. So, as you can see, I mean, this Wookiee, he's hanging in there pretty good, but he's definitely not going to get down both my shields, or even, I'd say even just 1. Yeah, and this is why I really do like burst turrets, is because even if those guys are healing, they're still going to be getting taken out one by one. And just, that is, yeah, that's strong. So, there we go. And if you guys didn't notice, you know, he was trying to use that, you know, get his medis in range, and they got in range of my rocket turret. So as soon as the burst turrets took out the rocket turret's target, they just start taking out medic droids like left and right. So, oh, got it down my shield. But that's also why it's important to, you know, make sure all your shields are covering your base as Imperial, because it makes it very difficult to lose to Rebel when they have when it's set up like that. Because this way you have to take down all 3 shields in order to, at least for them to be able to, you know, full X-wing your base, your HQ. So that's that one. And ooh, this one's even closer too. So this guy is also, oh no, he's a 7. Ooh, we're gonna take some pride in that one. Granted, all of his units are 6. So he's a fresh 7. You know, if you fight the other 7, I mean, this guy here, you know, 80%. And he was using more of the meta that he should be using versus some of these other guys. You know, they're using like tanks and kind of garbage units, honestly. So we're going to this one. I mean, he should really kind of be managing his time better by deploying more units. He's sticking, you know, I think he's waiting to see what happens with these Wookiees, but he's definitely wasting time at this point. If you're not getting most of your units down on the field in time, within at least the first 10 seconds of your attack, you know, it's just, you know, you're not going to get 100%. Even if you use full Medi Heavy, it's still pretty tough. So these guys just popped my my squad center. I gotta admit, I mean, they're not doing bad. They're definitely getting in there. But here we go. The speed bikes are gonna try and take out the medic droids. And there we go. So now these Wookiees are pretty much boned. I mean, this is not where you want to be and where you want to lose your medic droids. You know, it's just not good. He was, I gotta admit, he was kind of, you know, not, is pretty dense to kind of deploy over here next to the squad center. Because if I do have units, which I did, you know, they're gonna pretty much circle up behind you and take out your, you know, your medic droids. So, oh, you got that down. Nice. So now it's kind of more of a matter of whether he's gonna actually use his X-wings or not. You know, that's the big thing, is trying to kind of figure out. That is really annoying, that little drop thing there. So it's more just trying to figure out what your things are going to be. Your whether it's actually worth using your X-wings and spending all that credit, which a lot of people I feel are kind of stingy right now because credit's been very tight. If you see the rewards there, I mean, I only had 678 credit available and 29,000 alloy. So he probably spent like 20, no, not even 20. Yeah, probably like 20 to almost 30,000. No, I'd say probably around like 20,000, 20,000 plus. Anyway, so he spent probably about 20,000 credits, and there's not even knowing how many credits he spent just to find my base, whether he just picked the first one, and he only got 678. So that's a pretty big hit. In terms of credits, and right now, I mean, what you're seeing, that's kind of the amount that they're offering lately. I get a lot of 8,000 credits, or I get sometimes the 30s and 50s, and there's times where I just take it because I need the credits bad. So, I mean, it's kind of rough right now with that. But again, I'll get more into that when I do tournament. I'm gonna kind of do some attacks now. Do that in a separate episode though. Don't want to kind of pile too much into this one episode. So, I mean, that's why I use the base build I use. I believe it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. About 7? Am I getting it right? My math's probably off. Nope, yeah, that's 7. So I use about 7 burst turrets and 3 mortars and 2 rocket turrets. Now the mortars, I noticed if you go with 2 and 1 extra burst turret, it's not as strong. If they take out one of your mortars, it's kind of a rough ride after that. So at least this way you'll always have 2. At least 3, it's a pretty good number for this. And then 2 rocket turrets. If I hit HQ7, I'm probably going to do a rocket turret and a burst turret. I really don't feel like I need more mortars. I feel like they're good where they're at. Rocket turrets, I feel they could use one more, but I may even just go two more burst. I mean, I haven't really had too much of an issue with vehicles. It's more with medic droids, which, I mean, it kind of depends on what's the better counter. You know, rocket turrets, mortars, and then of course heavy burst turrets. You know, burst turrets, they just work so well with getting rocket turrets to refocus on medic droids, and again, I feel like they're a better counter for medi-heavy builds than most other turret builds. I mean, it's not perfect. There's definitely ways to beat this too, but I'd say I've seen more wins with this base build than I did before when I had more mortars. And again, kind of the same balance where it was about three burst turrets and 2 rocket turrets. So anyway, that'll be it for now. And then I'm going to get right into tournament in this next episode. So catch you guys there. All right, later.